Dan Illman, Mike Beer, taking a look at the feature race at Santa Anita on Sunday. It's race number 7, and it's the Sensational Star for California-bred fillies and mares going down the hill at about 6.5 furlongs. Let's take a look at this field. It looks like a pretty competitive group, as you see by the morning line, Mike. The number 3, Catalina Eddie, is a very tepid favorite at 3-1, coming off of a solid win against First Level Allowance Company when turned back to this distance.
Yeah, I can't argue too hard with the morning line that I didn't see a standout in this field. I thought it was kind of wide open.
We'll throw up the Timeform US pace projector because this could be a very important handicapping angle for this particular race. Clovis Connection, the number 7, does figure to be fresh. We haven't seen her since early October. She does have speed, and she does have the outside post, which allows her to have some options leaving the gate. I think she's going to make the front.
Yeah, there's not a ton of pace in this race. So I can certainly see that horse making the lead. I'd like to see maybe a little more aggression this time with the 1 Disco Tribute. Didn't get very aggressive last time. They switched to Pratt for this.
Favors front runners, the Timeform US pace projector says. That could hurt a late runner like the number 5, who has the fastest Timeform US late pace rating, that being Coalinga Road. Let's start things off with Disco Tribute, who was claimed for $25,000 3 starts back, then won a mixed breed race on dirt at Los Alamitos, and then ran okay going 5/8 in a $25,000 starter. Let's watch that race right now. You mentioned, Mike, that she just wasn't really aggressively handled out of the gate. She had some work to do, and she's kicking on a bit at the end. I think getting out to 6 is kind of the question of this race for her because, as you can tell by her running in that mixed breed race, she's fast.
Yeah, the distance and down the hill could be an issue for her. I actually felt like she kind of ran an underrated race in this spot. There, I mean, those horses on the lead just weren't coming back for him in that spot. He rated, he sat behind, he couldn't improve around the turn because they just weren't moving in front of him. And he finally had to move wide. I actually thought he finished up pretty well in that race. The distance is the main issue here.
Rider switch to the great Flavian Pratt, who figures to have this one right in the thick of things when they turn into the dirt patch. The number 2, Lovesick Blues, off the board last time out, but that was a pretty salty second-level allowance race. When she was in against the Grade 3 Daytona last year, I thought she ran very, very well. She looked like she was down inside, Mike. She was kind of over in behind horses in the stretch, and when she eventually got clear on the rail, she was running behind the 2 favorites, only to get beat ahead in the neck.
Yeah, I mean, this is a good spot for this horse, Dan. I mean, Pace Projector thinks the 5's the best closer in the race. Disagree. This is the best closer in the race. We'll see if it sets up for him because he is going to need a little pace, I think, to run into. But this horse ran really well 2 starts back. That was a big finish he put into Just Miss. Same thing last time. He just had way too much to do in there, but he was making up ground.
Catalina Eddie's up next, and we're going to take a look at his win going down the hill most recently. This was last month, and Catalina Eddie worked out a pretty nice trip. He was uncovered on the turn 3 wide, but he turns into the lane, and it looks like they're going to swallow him up. But I like that he always found a little bit more the last 16th of a mile.
The leaders just kept staying on in this race, Dan. And you're right. It felt like everybody was coming through the stretch here, but the horses that are trying to make up ground just can't get there. And it's Catalina Eddie, who did sit a pretty good trip, 3 wide throughout, but right up close to the pace and just really gamed it out at the end there. I can't say that I loved that performance, but I guess if he runs it back, he's a player in here.
Although the number 4, None Above the Law, hasn't won a race since the Grade 2 Del Mar Derby back in 2021, this might prove to be a very wise claim for these new connections, who took him out of a dirt race for $50,000 last time out. The last time he sprinted on the grass, the California Flag, he ran a pretty good 3rd. Now, he doesn't have a lot of speed. He's probably going to be outrun in the early part of this race, but he's going to be a good price. He has plenty of back races that make him interesting. He just needs a setup.
Yeah, he's going to need the right trip in here. And I guess you could sort of argue back and forth about what his best distance is. I think he's okay sprinting, Dan. Maybe he's a little better going longer. I don't know. I think he's pretty good sprinting, though. And I do think you're right. I think this could be a really good claim for these connections. I looked up this trainer. I'm not really familiar with this trainer. I don't know if you are. Okay numbers off the claim. Just they don't win a lot of turf races, though.
Coalinga Road is the number 5. This horse is a stakes winner against Calbreds on the turf, going a mile and an eighth, and he's going to be returning off of a lengthy layoff for trainer Carla Gaines. We haven't seen him since the spring of 2023, so you have to wonder if maybe they're using this sprint race as a prep for something longer. He does have some ability and some tactical speed, and the last time we saw him on the grass, well, that was the Crystal Water Stakes, where he ran second to a very sharp horse.
Yeah, true enough. I am a little bit worried that they're just using this race to get to something longer, Dan, but it's at least worth pointing out. This horse started out as a sprinter, and he was a pretty good one. He was capable of sprinting. And it's also worth pointing out, this is a long layoff. This horse has come back off of 2 long layoffs so far in his career, and he won both times.
Johnny Padres is stakes placed against Calbred sprinting on the turf, and he's coming into this race off of a victory in an open $50,000 claimer. We're going to take a look at that race right now. I thought this was a really sweet little ride from Giovanni Franco, who was able to save ground early. He's going to get out, find the right seam, and Johnny Padres does the rest. Now, this is a step up in class, but this is another guy with tactical speed who has run a race or two at a price that puts him in the mix.
Yeah, he's got plenty of races that make him a major contender in this race. And listen, they dropped him in for 50 last time, which was kind of a smart move for them. They claimed him for 40, and they've already done pretty well with him. They got his confidence up with that win last time. He has already shown he can hold his own with Calbred stakes horses sprinting on the grass. This horse is a contender in here.
And one of the keys to the race is the 7 Clovis connection. What are we going to get off of an October layoff? He's been good on dirt. He's been good on synth. He's been good on turf. He's won sprinting. He's won going long. Let's take a look at his most recent turf start. They stretched him out at Santa Rosa. He controlled the pace throughout. He has plenty left in the stretch to win that race. Afterwards, they ran him on dirt at Fresno sprinting. He won that race. He might get to the early lead here and back it down, and that might make him a very dangerous threat despite the layoff.
Yeah, I think he is pretty dangerous in here. And this is a horse that, as I went through this race and got to him, I just kept trying, because he's 7 for 10 and people like to bet horses that win a lot. I just kept trying to poke holes in him and tried not to like him. I really couldn't do it. I think this is a horse who could easily win this race.
Let's take a look at our top picks for the feature at Santa Anita on Sunday. Clovis connection for me, Mike. I know it's a layoff, but I do think this horse might have a decided pace advantage, and his consistency speaks for itself. You think this pace might heat up a little bit, and Lovesick Blues has shown the ability not only to run well in stakes races, but in open graded stakes races. He has that race or two that he could kick these horses down.
Yeah, that's how I looked at it, Dan. I mean, I just think this is a really good spot for this horse. I like his last 2 starts. I get it. He's probably going to be sitting towards the back with some ground to make up in the stretch. I'm not sure that it really matters all that much. If he gets a clean run, I think this is a great spot for this horse.
2, 6, 1, and 3 for Mike. 7, 5, 2, and 3 for me. It's the Sensational Star. It's Sensational Santa Anita. Good luck.